What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about MicroStrategy today, MSTR. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, okay? It is the 5th of May today. We have gapped down. We're down about 4.4% so far, sitting at about $377 now. Finding resistance at prior resistance, all that stuff. Rejecting the overbought zone on the weekly time frame, or I guess maybe we're not rejecting it so much, but finding resistance here nonetheless. What about the daily time frame? Got overbought. Now you're not. You're probably going to cool off at least to the 60, which would imply we at the very minimum have lower to go, if not down to the 50. Very common behavior. Going down to the 50, we get a nice higher low kind of scenario going on. I could see that happening. So not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I think we have a little bit of a pullback to do here. We saw prices right there at about $400. Found resistance at that nice psychological area, nice area of resistance back here in the price as well. We're probably going to pull all the way back down to about 343 or lower. That'd be my expectation from a relative low to a relative high, or lower seems to be the right call. We probably go down to about $330, $320, somewhere in that range here. We're at 376 now. The expectation from the current price would be, let's see, about a 12%, 13% drop. I could see that happening, right? I expect Bitcoin to drop about 6% from here. So if it drops 6%, MicroStrategy dropping about 12%, 13%. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. The expectation oftentimes with the 382 is to go just below it. You wick below it and then you come up and you close above it, right? Something like that. But in all fairness, in strong moves, and I think this is a pretty strong move, it seems strong in my opinion. It's very common to bounce right off the 382. So 328, 329, right there, if we're being very specific as to where it's going to go. As far as when is it going to go, when will it be there? That's a good question. You know, it could be by the end of this week. It could be sometime early next week, but I do think that this week is going to be a week of consolidation and correction. If it takes less time than that, that'll only be because Bitcoin just falls through the floor here, and it might do this quick little it won't really be a flash crash at 6% of a drop, but might be like a flash crash in comparison to what we've seen over here, where we drop like this over the next day or two. We just see a quick correction and then we recover. Sometimes we do that kind of stuff. If that happens, MicroStrategy, yes, absolutely, you'd be down here by the end of this week. But I think we're going at Bitcoin's pace. Just double it essentially, right? Whatever Bitcoin drops percentage wise, you're going to drop double is the expectation here. So very much do expect we're going to go to $330. After that, we'll find support at prior resistance, at prior support down here. We'll find some support and resistance between 330, 325, right? That's the expectation, and inevitably work our way higher. What we've done here effectively is we've broken out of this downtrend. We come back down to 320, 330, whatever. We're just finding a higher low on this new uptrend that we're starting on our path to glory and riches that'll take us above $1,000, $1,300, even above $1,700. We've made the case out for that plenty of times. I don't want to do it here, but just trust when I tell you. We've got plenty of reasons to believe that MSTR can see prices that are well above $1,000, $1,155 to something that's just above $1,600. I really wouldn't be surprised at all if we did see something above $1,600, but most likely something in between about $1,155, $1,600, something in this zone. I actually don't expect, and this is one of those weird circumstances, but not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I'm actually kind of anticipating that we find support or resistance, somewhere between the 2272 and the 200. Normally, that's not what we call for. Normally, it's like you find resistance at these lines, just above these lines, something like that, right? Something around that area. But right in the middle, right in the heart of that zone, there just seems to be a lot of significance on the Bitcoin chart, the MSTR to Bitcoin chart, right? Whenever we type in MSTR and we compare it to BTC, anytime that we do this and we're looking at it, if it'll let me, the idea here would be that MicroStrategy does run up to about 1% of a Bitcoin, right? Where is that? All the way up here, right at this prior area of resistance here. That's kind of the expectation at the moment. Is this right? Hold on, let me make sure I've got this right. Maybe I just need to type it in differently. BTC USD, maybe on the all-time history index, and then Nasdaq MSTR. Yes, that's the one. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, moving on up here. 1%, that's right there. That's at this prior resistance, but at this prior area of support. I think MicroStrategy right now, with this bullish setup that it's got this nice like cup and handle pattern, it's going to break out and see this kind of target on its next move versus Bitcoin. 1% of a Bitcoin could imply some very bullish things. If Bitcoin's at $130,000, that'd put MicroStrategy at $1.3 $1,000. Yes, 1 point. Yeah, because 1% of 100,000 is 1,000. Sorry, I had to had a little brain fart there. So if Bitcoin tops off at 130K by the end of this next endeavor, then likely MicroStrategy would be at least 1% of that, or somewhere around that. That put you around $1,300, which makes sense here. But 1,300 is just above that 200 area. If MicroStrategy tops off, when Bitcoin tops off at like 150, 160, 170K, and we have a lot of reasons to believe that we'll see 170 to 180K. We have a lot of reasons to believe MicroStrategy will top off before or after Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin tops at 170 to 180, likely MSTR will top off at a lower price. But at a 1% ratio of Bitcoin, MSTR to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin's at 160K, 150K, 130K, at least you're certainly going to be up at this area, if not higher. So I don't expect that you'll see 1,700, but I do expect something between 1,300 and 1,600 makes a lot of sense. We're at 375 right now. And overall, the expectation from here is to just drop a little bit lower, right? Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I'm not saying sell here. I'm just saying don't buy here. Look for a buying opportunity below $340, probably around 330 to 320 in that area, 330 to 325. And then from there, we'll start to recover and we'll move on up. It'll be a higher low. It'll be a back test of resistance as support, confirmation, good structure that we're ready to go higher. By the end of the month of May, I would expect that we're at $500 or at least around there, if not at new all-time highs itself, going into June, getting set up for that very bullish continuation, bullish breakout, blue sky discovery zone, right? Seeing new all-time highs. We'll probably get a split either in June or July because this thing's going to be worth $1,000 or more. And the last time that we saw something like that, last time that we were around $1,000 or more, we had that 10-to-1 split as well. So I got nothing else for you guys. I think I've said everything that I need to say. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Don't worry about MSTR, man. I think it's going to be fine. A lot of people are spreading the narrative around, right? They need this FUD. They need this bearish narrative going on for MicroStrategy, because if they don't have it, then there's only going to be a reason to get in, and there's not going to be enough fuel to the fire. You need people shorting this thing. You need people who are abandoning it. You need people who will FOMO back in whenever it goes higher. You need that, right? If we're looking at this here, MSTR, I wonder. I've often said, I'm like, until the long side leverage goes away, we're going to have a hard time moving up. But we've been moving up, and everybody has been long. So I don't know. Let's just see here. Options charts, open calls and puts. Where's the expiry? Let's view all expiries. It's been a while since we've looked at this. And look at that, guys. Look at that. MicroStrategy is finally bullish. And what happened? We actually have a positive put to call ratio. We actually have a positive put to call ratio for the next 2 weeks. Likely these will roll over. We'll still have that positive put to call ratio. All the time, all this time that we were dropping, all of this time that we were expecting the price to go higher, the put to call ratio was not above a 1. It was negative, right? The calls outweighed the puts. People were going long, not going short. Now things are different. Most people, whether you believe it or not, you can see it here. The average expectation is for MicroStrategy to go down. That's why there's more puts here. What's max pain? I wonder what the max pain is. We got, this is bullish, guys. Very, very bullish, yeah. Max pain's a little bit lower, so we'll probably come a little bit down this week, but I think over the weeks, over the months, it's going to be very, very bullish. Because here's the thing, a lot of people too might assume, well, if we're moving up, won't that just make everybody go long? You would think that, but actually if we're at new all-time highs or around here, people might go short, putting on some shorts, thinking we're going to get a double top or some kind of resistance there. They might buy the narrative that Saylor's going to ruin Bitcoin because he owns the most supply out of any entity in the world. But the thing is, guys, Saylor does not own the most Bitcoin supply. MicroStrategy does not own the most supply for Bitcoin in the world. They custodialize it. There are other people, other entities, other corporations, government entities, individuals who are wealthy that own the Bitcoin that MSTR owns. MSTR only owns these Bitcoins. You ever see it, right? Whenever MicroStrategy is about to buy $80 billion worth of Bitcoin, $100 billion worth of Bitcoin, $1 billion, $500 million, whatever, they're raising that capital. Raising means they're getting it from outside investors or corporations or government people, people who want to buy. The idea that MicroStrategy is a single point of failure, and that in itself is a bit of a risk, right? If something happens to MSTR, some bad stuff can happen to these Bitcoins and stuff like that, right? Like if MicroStrategy gets hacked, that'd be terrible. But other than that aspect, it's not like one person owns this much supply, right? It's actually a conglomerate, a large conglomerate of various entities within this entity. This entity is just the custodian. So that's not what Bitcoin's about. That's not how it's meant to be. And I don't like that myself. I think that that's kind of a plague in the crypto society, is having a large custodian owning the majority of the Bitcoin percentage out there. Not the majority of it, but the largest percentage of Bitcoin out there. That's not what we want to see. You want decentralization, not centralization. But this custodian, it's just a custodian. There are still plenty of entities besides just MSTR that owns the Bitcoin that MSTR is custodializing, right? So don't buy the narrative. Don't be like these guys going short on MSTR. It's not going to work out. Over time, we're only going to grow. I got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. We need the FUD. We need the bad news. We need the negative stories because that's what helps you grow. You grow in times of negative stories. You die in times of positive stories. If you don't believe that, you just haven't been in the markets long enough, but we'll see how that goes. Anyways, take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.